Minnesota Governor Tim Walz making another trip to Nebraska today. The former vice presidential candidate has been holding a town hall tour in many districts. And as First Alert 6's Philip Katafamo shares, his visit comes as many Republicans shy away from in-person meetings.
Saturday, Nebraskans lined up outside the Swanson Center at MCC in anticipation for the return of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who made his third trip to the Cornhusker State.
Went to see him last summer at a rally in Papillion. He's a great speaker. We just need some guidance. The National Democratic Party is kind of lost right now.
I'm a part of different local organizations focused on voter participation back in Lincoln. So I just wanted to come out here and be an active member of my community.
Governor Walz's visit comes as congressional Republicans were advised against holding in-person town halls. District 2 Republican Congressman Don Bacon will hold a virtual town hall later this month. Bacon explained why he went virtual in a meeting this week.
It's more conversational. I've been at some of the in-person town halls, and when you got moms and dads saying we can't bring our kids to a town hall, there's a problem.
Bacon sent First Alert 6 a statement regarding Walz's visit saying, quote, "First, Nebraska Democrats brought in Bernie Sanders, the most liberal senator to the district. Now they're bringing in the most liberal governor in America. Perhaps at the town hall, Governor Walz can finally clarify what Army rank he actually retired at and when the supposed combat deployment he used to talk about occurred. If he wants to call into our town hall, he can answer these questions," end quote. Walz touched on multiple topics during his two-hour event, including addressing his opponents.
I want to be clear. I am not here to personally attack the Representative Bacon. I don't do that. They do on the other side. I honor him for his service. They certainly don't honor Democratic veterans. We know how that works. We do honor them, and that's a different thing.
This is one of the first of many stops he is making around multiple districts controlled by Republicans. In Omaha, I'm Philip Katafamo, First Alert 6.
Americans for Prosperity Nebraska criticized Walz's appearance in Nebraska, saying in part, quote, "Tim Walz should go home and figure out how to fix his own state's issues rather than lecturing Nebraska."